Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show, the RR Show, the best show on the internet. I'm Andy, and today we are examining some very curious glitches in the Matrix from, surprisingly, r/GlitchInTheMatrix. But without further ado, here is our first story. Grab your tea and your popcorn as we jump in with this one from CG1991. A child answered my thought. I don't know if this belongs here, but it's such a weird but insignificant event I just need to share. I was at a family event today, Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and unfortunately my family eat that kind of thing up. There were a few relatives I knew but hadn't spent a lot of time with. While sat away from the main celebration with my particular and one of the kids, she was 9 and took a shine to us, I thought I could smell smoke. Didn't vocalize it, didn't even look up from my phone. I just thought it. The girl looked at me and said, "You're right, they're having a fire next door, you can see the smoke." She then proceeded to point above the trees where there was smoke. My partner asked what she was on about and she didn't reply. I later asked my partner if I'd spoke aloud about fires and she said no. I also shouted her name for like 10 minutes after and got no response, so less psychic, more of a glitch. Was also sober and don't believe in the paranormal. Well, that was a nice short one to get us started off. If you've got a second, guys, please take a moment to make sure you're following the show, and if you could leave us a review, that'd be even better, especially if you're on Spotify. Make sure you're still following. Our next one is from Owl Carter, The Ghost Family. About 3 years ago, I worked at a pizzeria where I carried out varied tasks depending on the needs. This evening, I was in charge of deliveries. A couple and their 2 children who were regular customers ordered by phone and came to pick up their order at the restaurant. Usually, they opted for delivery, but this wasn't the first time they'd come in to pick it up. As they left, I walked past them. A few minutes later, we realized that they were missing an item. We tried calling them, but there was no answer. As they were local customers and I had a delivery nearby their address, I decided to drop off the missing item myself. However, when I arrived at their building, something seemed off. They lived on the ground floor of a small building, and their yard was usually filled with children's toys, but that day it was empty. I rang the intercom, and through the glass door of the building I saw an elderly woman open the door of the flat and come to me. She told me she'd lived there for years. There was no family living there. Confused, I went back to my car and video called my colleague to make sure I wasn't going crazy. She became as puzzled as I'd just been and confirmed that I was at the correct address. This would have been surprising otherwise, as I'd delivered to them several times before and was very familiar with the neighborhood. I tried calling the customer again, but still no answer. Eventually, I had to move on as I was running out of time. About 2 weeks later, they reordered, as if nothing happened. I made the delivery and everything seemed back to normal. Of course, I told them about the strange events. They were just as confused as I was and had no explanation, since they, of course, didn't move and no elderly woman lived with them. Moreover, they were certain they had gone straight home after picking up their order. Since these events, we've referred to them as the Ghost Family. This one is in from I'm the Mother. A weird thing happened to my husband and I at the same time. My husband, 31, and I, 30, took our 3 kids, 5, 3, and 3, to the mall this evening to get some treats and burn energy. It's a Saturday night before a holiday and the mall is packed. We immediately have to go to the little play area for the kids, and we're standing there watching them sprint and play with a horde of screaming kids. Everything's normal, and then everything goes really quiet. Too quiet. All of the children are running and playing, but there's no noise, no screaming, no laughing. The adults and older kids are still talking, but it's like muffled, ambient noise. Scared, I turn to make eye contact with my husband, and he looks at me and goes in a whisper, "Why is it so quiet?" We're both looking around, starting to panic. We both go, "Did you hear that?" No one else seemed to notice. It was bizarre, eerie. What was that? Has anyone else had this happen to them? I've had moments like that in the past on my own, but never at the same time as someone else. It was like something was happening and we were the only two that noticed. Fight or flight immediately kicked in. We grabbed the kids and left the area. This one is from Venus Valkyrie JH. Meeting our son. Before he was born. Corner. So this happened about 7 or 8 years ago. My husband and I were laying in the bed one night watching television. Out the corner of my eye, I saw a child in the doorway of our bedroom. Thinking it was our only child at the time, I tapped my hubby and said, "Hey, shh. Look, I think it's Connor in the corner trying to scare us." He turns and looks, and this child walked into our room. I can't explain it because it was one of those moments that seemed somehow different. We watched in silence, soon realizing that this child was not our son. He toddles in, head slightly tilted back, curls bouncing and diapers squishing as he goes to the end of our bed. We see his head go down, like he was crouching, and when we got up to look, he was gone. I looked at Chris, my husband, and said, "Did we just see a ghost?" Then, almost as an afterthought, I said, "Well, we know if I have another baby and he has curls, he was here before he was born." We both laughed because we're not trying for another baby at the time. Fascinated, we go and check on our son. He was fast asleep. A few months later, I'm pregnant. Surprise! So fast forward and our new baby, Liam, is 2. He toddles into the room, head tilted slightly back and curls bouncing, and it hit me like a bucket of ice water. Holy crap, this is the baby that came to visit us. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind. Now, on top of that, whenever Liam is staying the night elsewhere, like with my parents, he comes to visit me in my sleep. For example, one time he came and just smiled at me while I was taking a nap. He was in a little red shirt and his hair was cut short. He left with it long. The next day I go to pick the kiddos up at noon, and lo and behold, his hair is freshly shorn and is wearing a little red shirt. I asked my mum, "Did he wear this yesterday?" And she replies, "Oh yeah, he did, but he insisted on wearing it today, so he is." So I look at him and say, "Did you go and see Mummy yesterday in Mummy's dreams?" He just looked at me. He was 4, all big blue eyes and serious, and nodded his head. So that's my Glitch in the Matrix story. One of many, but the most profound. Our son, I guess, travels astral and even stopped to see us before he was born. I would know those curls anywhere. The fact that my husband witnessed it with me makes it even more weird, but utterly fascinating. This one is from Megan Juno 3. I saw an entire building disappear. A disclaimer before you read. 1. I appreciate all viewpoints and theories to this experience, but please do be kind. I've been accused of having mental illness or lying in very mean ways. I'm a 19-year-old girl. I never post on Reddit because I'm shy and don't want to read mean things about myself. 2. I am a mental health nursing student. We have to have multiple appointments from occasional therapists to see if we're fit for the role. My last appointment was on Tuesday. I got the all clear. I've been doing this for a year. I've never had any hallucinations, except possibly the bird, which I'll explain later, and I have no history of mental illness. It's also a very observed course. And if my lecturers, classmates, or therapists thought I had any issues whatsoever, I would be assessed and helped as necessary. So while I appreciate this may have been a micro dream or hallucination, I do not accept or agree with accusations of being delusional per se. It's sad that I have to put this disclaimer here, but it seems as though some people don't realize how words can affect other people. Please just remember, kindness goes a long, long way nowadays, more than ever. Sorry for the rambling, here goes. I go to a university and I'm on campus 3 days a week. I do healthcare, so I'm in a specific building 95% of the time. It's very old, built in the 1800s, and gives me the creeps. Today I was in the same room for 3.5 hours, 2 different lectures. I've never been in this room before. I sat in the same seat the entire time on the far left of the room next to a bare wall. The right side of the room had windows looking over the campus. I got distracted as one does during a lecture and looked outside. I saw a tall, white, concrete building. It must have been about 10 stories tall with absolutely no windows. On top was a large box with wires around it. Though I wasn't creeped out by this, I did think to myself that it was odd how I'd never seen this building on campus, as it was fairly close to the building I was in. To the left were two normal-looking buildings, both with windows and no giant box on top. After my first lecture finished, the teachers swapped over. We joked with our new teacher about being in a different building for our next semester, as ours was cold and creepy. The building we wanted to be in was about a 2-minute walk away. To that, my lecturer replied, "It's only over there," after someone had complained about it being too far away to move to. She pointed out the window in the direction of the odd building I had seen earlier. It was completely gone, and replaced by what looked like an old clock tower. At first, I just thought that I must have leaned to the left or right earlier when looking out the window, so I checked again, moving all around the seats to see where the white building was. It was gone. I immediately felt spooked. The trees that were in front of the building I saw were still there. The two buildings to the left were still there, but no white building. I didn't say anything to my friends at the time, but when the lecture ended, I did a double take and actually went over to the window to look. No building, at all. I later told one of my friends, and she joked that I must have been seeing things or shifted dimensions. I laughed it off, but I was, and still am, extremely unsettled, and I have no idea why I feel so off about it, seeing as it doesn't seem like a big deal. I've had an experience in the past with seeing a pigeon disappear whilst flying in open air, but this was before the GlitchInTheMatrix talk was around like now, so I just put it down to being my head imagining things. Does anyone have any ideas? Was it a time slip? Was it a glitch? I definitely don't have hallucinations, and I was looking at the white building for long enough to know it was there. I've googled my campus to see if there is any buildings that look similar nearby, but there's absolutely none. I found the two buildings to the left and the clock tower though. I know it might not seem believable, but it's what I saw. Any conspiracies to what happened? Greatly appreciated.